The annual Chen family dinner was in full swing at Golden Palace, the same overpriced Chinese restaurant we'd gathered at every year since I was a kid. Uncles boasted about their new Mercedes, aunties flaunted designer handbags, and my cousins? They were experts at broadcasting their success to anyone within earshot. Michael. Cousin Kevin called across the lazy Susan, his voice dripping with mock concern. Still riding the bus? I could hook you up with a great lease deal. I adjusted the cuff of my simple white shirt, briefly revealing the watch underneath. The bus works fine, I said, keeping my tone neutral. So practical, Aunt Linda chimed in, her smile tight. But surely, with your little computer job, you could afford something nicer? I bit back a grin. My computer job, as they called my tech company, was why I wore a watch worth more than everything in this restaurant combined. Not that they'd recognize a Philippe Dufour Grande Sonnery minute repeater. Only 16 exist, and most collectors don't even know who owns them. Speaking of jobs, Uncle Richard boomed, Kevin just made junior partner at Goldman Sachs. Following in his father's footsteps. The table erupted in congratulations. Kevin preened, adjusting his Rolex, probably a bonus gift, nowhere near as rare as he thought. And you, Michael? My father asked, his eyes heavy with familiar disappointment. Still doing your, what is it? App development. Before I could respond, the waiter arrived with more dishes. As I reached for the soy sauce, my sleeve slid up, revealing the watch again. Dad's chopsticks clattered to the table. He stammered, his face paling. That's impossible. The table went silent. Dad, a watch collector for decades before a market crash forced him to sell his collection, knew exactly what was on my wrist. Is something wrong? Mom asked, glancing between us. That watch, Dad whispered. It's a Dufour Grande Sonnery. One of 16 in the world. Worth $2 million. Kevin, his Goldman Sachs trained eye finally catching up, finished the thought. Give or take, depending on the market. The silence that followed was exquisite. Aunt Linda's designer bag suddenly looked tacky. Uncle Richard's Mercedes seemed downright pedestrian. Oh, this old thing? I said, echoing Aunt Linda's earlier quip about her Gucci bag. Just something I picked up at auction last month. But how? Mom sputtered. You take the bus. I sipped my tea, savoring the moment. Ever wonder why I take the bus? It's because I'm usually on calls with our Tokyo office. Can't do that while driving. Tokyo office? Kevin's smirk vanished. What exactly does your app do? I pulled out my phone, not the latest iPhone, which had earned Snickers earlier, and opened our company's latest valuation report. We develop AI-driven financial trading algorithms, I said, sliding the phone toward Kevin. Actually, we probably power some of the systems you use at Goldman. His eyes widened as he read. Uncle Richard leaned over, then choked. 10 billion, he wheezed. 11.2, after last month's funding round, I corrected. Though valuations can be volatile, right, Kevin? His Rolex suddenly looked very small. Dad was still staring at my watch, his expression a mix of awe and regret. He'd taught me about watches, their history, their craftsmanship, before the 2008 crash forced him to sell his collection and push us toward safe careers in banking. The auction, he said quietly. Christie's, last month. I nodded. Anonymous buyer. I knew you'd recognize it eventually. It was your dream piece. Mom's voice softened. Your father's dream watch. I know, I said. Why do you think I bought it? The rest of dinner was awkwardly quiet, broken only by the clink of chopsticks and muted requests for dishes. My cousins, usually so loud about their achievements, seemed to lose their voices. Even Kevin stopped name-dropping Goldman Sachs. Finally, Uncle Richard broke the silence. So, Michael, your company's doing well? I glanced at my phone, a notification from our London office. You could say that. We handle about 30% of all AI-driven trades in Asia. Probably closer to 40 after next month's merger. Merger? Kevin perked up, his banker instincts kicking in. With whom? Can't say yet, I smiled. But you'll read about it in the Financial Times soon. Your firm's handling part of the due diligence, actually. Kevin paled. The quantum trade acquisition? That's your company. Quantum trade, I said vaguely, bound by an NDA for another week. The Singapore-based firm that's shaking up Asian markets. Aunt Linda, her earlier condescension gone, leaned forward. Michael, darling, why didn't you tell us? We thought you were struggling, taking the bus. I adjusted my watch, letting the light catch its intricate complications. Sometimes success doesn't need to be shouted. It shows up quietly. Uncle Richard, ever opportunistic, jumped in. My investment portfolio could use some diversification. Perhaps we could discuss. Sorry, I interrupted politely. We're fully funded. Last round was oversubscribed by about $3 billion. The table fell silent again. $3 billion was more than their portfolios combined. Mom touched my sleeve gently. Why keep it secret all these years? Because I wanted to build something real, I said. Not chase status symbols or family approval. Dad's eyes were still on the watch. The auction, he said suddenly. There was a bidding war. The price soared past estimates. I know, I smiled. I was the other bidder. His voice faltered. You drove up the price deliberately? Had to make sure no one else got it, I shrugged. It was your dream watch, Dad. Kevin, desperate to regain some dignity, cleared his throat. At Goldman, we always say. I cut him off, checking my phone. Your trading desk just switched to our new algorithm platform. The memo goes out Monday. He deflated completely, his junior partner status suddenly irrelevant. Aunt Linda, ever the social climber, tried a new angle. Michael, you must come to our country club next weekend. There's someone I'd love you to meet. Can't, I said. Flying to Singapore on my jet. Board meeting. Your jet. Uncle Richard's voice was faint. Just a small one, I said modestly. Though I usually take the bus to the airport. Better for the environment. After dinner, Dad followed me outside while the others gathered their designer coats and car keys. The night air was crisp, his breath visible as he struggled for words. That watch, he finally said. It was the one in my study. The picture on my desk for 20 years. I nodded. Right up until the crash forced you to sell your collection. He winced. The 2008 crash had hit our family hard, turning him from a passionate collector into someone who pushed safe careers. Is that why you bought it? He asked. To prove something? I pulled back my sleeve, letting the moonlight catch the watch's perfect craftsmanship. I bought it because you used to tell me about it as a kid, how only 16 people would ever own one, how it was the peak of human artistry. When I started my company, I kept a picture of it too. Not for money or status, but for precision. For building something rare. Kevin and Uncle Richard burst out of the restaurant, frantically talking into their phones, probably researching my company. Aunt Linda was showing Mom pictures of her friend's daughter, not so subtly matchmaking. Here, I said, unbuckling the watch. It was always meant to be yours. Dad stepped back, shaking his head. I can't. It's too much. Actually, I smiled. I bought two at the auction. This one's yours. Mine's in Singapore. One masterpiece per continent seemed reasonable. His hands trembled as I handed him the watch. Two? That's $4 million. About what I make in interest each month, I shrugged. Some things are worth more than money. Mom approached, still holding Aunt Linda's phone. Michael, about this lovely girl. Sorry, Mom, I said, glancing at my phone, the non-fancy one running our secure apps. I'm already seeing someone. Head of AI research at MIT. We met when I was the keynote speaker at a conference. Relatives within earshot nearly got whiplash turning to stare. Dad, admiring his watch, spoke softly. I always wondered why you worked so hard on those computers instead of following Kevin into banking. You used to say this watch was valuable not for its price, but for its relentless pursuit of perfection. Exactly, I said. That's what I built. Not just a trading company, but something precise, something rare, something that's changing the industry. My phone buzzed, Singapore exchange opening soon. Dad noticed and smiled. You should go. Markets wait for no one. Actually, I said, pulling out 2 tickets, why don't you and Mom come to Singapore next week? See what your son's built. First class, of course. On your jet? Mom asked, eyes wide. I grinned. Just kidding about the bus. Yes, on the jet. As we said goodbye, I overheard Kevin downplaying his junior partner role to Uncle Richard. Aunt Linda was suddenly obsessed with tech stocks, and my cousins were frantically Googling my company. But none of that mattered as much as watching Dad show Mom his new watch, explaining its complications with the same passion I remembered from childhood. Some things are worth more than money, like the look on your father's face when he realizes his son didn't just succeed, but did so while honoring the values he taught. I took the bus home that night, as usual, but spent the ride planning how to rebuild Dad's old watch collection, one masterpiece at a time. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't flaunting wealth, it's using it to restore what matters. And sometimes, taking the bus doesn't mean you're broke. It means you're too busy building an empire to care what others think. Thank you for watching this story on Echo Tales. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and drop a comment with your thoughts on Michael's journey. Your support means the world, and we'll see you in the next story.